Surprise in the House Intelligence Committee report on Ukraine, phone records uncovering new details about how Trump allies may have coordinated their efforts, including some mysterious calls between Rudy Giuliani, the White House, OMB, Lev Parnas, and this mysterious number one. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Jim Himes, who serves on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. What did you know about these phone records when you were conducting the public hearings over those 2 weeks?
Well, not a lot, actually. A lot of that production turned up fairly late in the game, which is why you didn't see or hear a lot of questions about what this particular call may have been about. But it also sort of points to something quite interesting, which is imagine if the White House, rather than taking the historically unprecedented step of saying we're not going to allow the State Department, DOD, anybody in the White House to testify, to produce documents, to produce emails, imagine if they had actually, like they are legally required to do, actually provided emails and these sorts of records. We would know a lot more than we know today. Just
to be crystal clear, had any of them been turned over, the records of the calls prior to the questioning, were they known to the committee or the committee counsel at any point during the questioning?
I think they were known, so I don't know the exact sequence, but I think they were known certainly to the investigative staff for the open hearings. I don't know exactly when they arrived with respect to the depositions. But again, had some of those calls been known at the time of the original depositions, I think you would have seen a lot more questions about them.
Okay, but interesting that they were known at least by some during the public hearings. These records include calls between Rudy Giuliani and OMB number, Office of Management and Budget, several calls between Giuliani and White House numbers, calls between Giuliani and Lev Parnas, this indicted figure who Giuliani used to try to dig up dirt in Ukraine, and then this 8-minute call with Dash 1. Now, the reason that might be significant is Dash 1 in the Roger Stone investigation turned out to be the President of the United States. What's the significance in your mind of Giuliani's call with Dash 1 on the date, April 24th, that the ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, was recalled from Kiev?
Well, again, not knowing for sure exactly who Dash 1 is, that's a hard question to answer. But the larger picture that you described, which is absolutely right, really shows the extent to which Rudy Giuliani was coordinating and running this show. Not a surprise, by the way. Of course, we heard that was true from Ambassador Sondland. We heard that was true from every single witness who basically said some version of Rudy Giuliani is out there spreading misinformation, sort of running his own foreign policy, going at odds with official United States foreign policy with respect to the aid and the White House meeting and that sort of thing. So, again, it's a little hard to know, but it does tell a story of Giuliani really being the guy who is doing all of these things and driving this stuff in Ukraine. And as we know, Rudy Giuliani is not an employee of the federal government. He works for the president, which, again, is a somewhat indicting fact about what the interest was behind the person who was enmeshed in all of these sort of shady activities.
And then as you look at the phone records, one of the things that jumps out is 4 phone calls between Lev Parnas, who again is this figure who has been indicted by the Southern District of New York, and Devin Nunes, the ranking Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, including an 8-minute phone call between the two men. This is what Congressman Nunes said about that contact overnight.
It's possible, but I haven't gone through all my phone records. I don't really recall that name. I remember the name now because he's been indicted. And I'll go back and check all my records, but it seems very unlikely that I would be taking calls from random people.
The phone records here say he did take that call, at least one that was 8 minutes long. What questions does this raise to you about Ranking Member Nunes?
Well, it sadly illustrates something that has been evident to all of us on the committee, and quite frankly to anybody who has watched the committee in the last year and a half, which is that then Chairman Nunes, now Ranking Member Nunes, for a year and a half has completely given over whatever responsibilities he may feel he has as a member of Congress in the service of being the president's guy, the president's defender, the guy who will try to keep alive all of the conspiracy theories about, the Russian conspiracy theories about Ukraine being the entity that messed around in the 2016 election. So not a huge surprise, again, to those of us who have watched Devin. He is there to defend, like Mark Meadows, like Jim Jordan, facts be damned, he is there to defend defend the President of the United States. And that's a concerning thing for those of us who care about congressional oversight.
You see an ethics violation possibly here?
Well, I don't think, there's something a little absurd about having a bunch of phone calls and then saying that you need to go back and consult your phone records to remember a phone call with, by the way, somebody who's subsequently been arrested and indicted. That's not the way the human brain works. But no, I'm not going to say that there's an obvious ethics violation. What much more concerning, of course, is the report, and it is a report that he may have used official resources to go to Europe to try to serve the president's political interest there. That would be an ethical violation if it is true. But look, talking to Lev Parnas and then sort of denying that you remember doing it, sort of the Donald Trump of defense, right? I barely met the guy. That may be unseemly, but it's not clear. It's not clear that it's an ethics violation.
In this 300-page report, I want to read you a sentence that struck me. It also struck Jamie Gangel, who's standing next to me, to be in part of our panel next block. But it's the very first line of the preface, which reads, "This report reflects the evidence gathered thus far by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence." Those words, "thus far," jumped out at us. Are you indicating that you are conducting more work? What else are you looking for or do you expect to find?
Well, we have all kinds of outstanding subpoenas that are being ignored. Subpoenas for documents out of the State Department. That's another story that has yet to be fully told. Exactly who knew about the firing of Marie Yovanovitch. Just because Gordon Sondland decided that he was going to show that he was not operating as a lone actor, we got a few emails that indicated that the Secretary of State knew what was going on. Imagine if we had a comprehensive set of emails, of documents, of phone records. One of the things that was interesting about the open hearings, John, those open hearings, oftentimes they don't produce a lot of new information, but it's hard for me to remember one hearing in which somebody didn't appear with new information, whether it was the tale of the phone call that was overheard in Ukraine between Sondland and the president, the famous phone call of he loves your ass, I think was the phrase used with the President of the United States about the President of Ukraine, or the memory or the facts that were dredged up around the fact that the Ukrainians knew that there was a hold on their military aid. So my point is that, the more information we get, the more this rather sinister plot really comes into sharp focus. So, of course, we will continue to demand the documents that we have asked for and demand that people who have been subpoenaed show up. Whether they do so or not, of course, is a different question.
Another one of the tropes that is out there, fueled by the president, is that as Democrats are conducting the impeachment investigations, no other work is getting done. Now, Democrats say, no, we've passed 400 things from the House of Representatives, hundreds of things from the House of Representatives, just not going through the Senate. You yourself have something you've worked on for some time that you're getting on the House floor, I believe, tomorrow, which has to do with insider trading. What's that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so it's a good week to ask me that question for precisely that reason. As it happens, there actually is no specific law against insider trading. Insider trading forever has been prosecuted under fraud provisions. That's led to a lot of court-made law. So after a lot of hard work, after a couple of years of hard work, we actually have a bipartisan bill with Democratic and Republican support that will fix that problem, as you say, in the next 48 hours here in the House. But that's really just emblematic of the problem not being that we're not getting stuff done. We're getting plenty of stuff done. As you said, there's some 400 bills out there that have passed in the House of Representatives. The reason that they are not going anywhere has nothing to do with distracted Democrats, because every week we pass bills. It has to do with the fact that Mitch McConnell has converted the United States Senate into a machine to approve judges. So the Americans need to understand that half of the Congress is a machine to approve Donald Trump's judges. And that, of course, takes up all the time and energy in the Senate and doesn't allow us to take up bills, many of which, by the way, are bipartisan. It's a Senate problem, not a House Democrat.
Bipartisan bill like the one you are getting on the floor this week. Congressman Jim Himes from Connecticut, thanks for being with us this morning. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
And CNN's got something very special tomorrow night. A programming note, Jake Tapper will moderate a town hall with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. A lot of